Welcome to No Question About That Daily. I'm Ed, today here with Isabel. How's it going?
It is very good. What about you?
Yeah, surviving. Yeah, I've had this cold for the last week and I'm just about getting to the other side, I think. So, yeah,
Hmm.
hopefully not too much coughing. We are going to talk about Alejandro Garnacho because there's a lot of rumours in the media today about Napoli potentially being interested. They've sold Kavicha Kvaratskhelia to Paris Saint-Germain. They're sort of, I guess, their biggest name player, apart from Scott McTominay, of course. But yeah, so they're flush with cash, and Garnacho doesn't appear to be sort of number one choice at United. So yeah, what's your immediate thoughts, reaction to Garnacho potentially going?
Yeah, I think I would be sad to see Garnacho go. Obviously he is a young player. There is still progress to be made. Which I do think he'd be capable to do that at Napoli. I do want to keep him though, because obviously I think we are kind of at a short of wingers, and I think Garnacho is definitely getting better and better the more I see him. I know he's had a bit of a blip kind of recently, but then obviously he had a good game the other day. So I do like Garnacho. I think there's definitely a player there, but it all depends on the money as well. I mean, if Napoli are offering a good amount, then I don't know what it was. It looking at about 50 million.
Yeah, a whole bunch of different numbers flying
Yeah.
around. I mean, none of which I think you can trust right
No.
now. It does appear that the fee that Napoli have got from Paris Saint-Germain for Kvaratskhelia is 70 million euros. So that's
Yeah.
around about 60 million pounds, maybe some add-ons there. I mean, he's obviously an established Champions League player. Got last season, bit of a dip. Season before, I think it was 30 goals and assists combined, which is a good number. Marcus Rashford numbers from 2 seasons ago as well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's probably an appropriate fee for someone that good. Napoli top of the Serie A at the moment, doing some very odd deals despite being top of Serie A, trying to build under Conte. So seems like that's the sort of number that might be floating around. I mean, I tend to agree with you. I think it should be a really big number for Garnacho if United sell, and that's because of the kind of high ceiling, high potential we think he's got. I don't think he's ever really put it together for 20 games in a row or something like that yet. I mean, he's only
No.
20, so
Yeah, he's still young. There is,
yeah,
like I said, there's a lot of work still to be done with Garnacho. I would like to see him progress more at United, definitely. Of course, there's a bit of a how's he going to fit in, or where is he going to fit in? Because obviously, if Ahmad and Bruno are playing that kind of double number 10 role, where does Garnacho fit in? But then again, on rotation, but does he want to be a rotating player? Probably not. It's all up in the air. I wonder what Garnacho would want to do though, because I I don't know. I don't know whether he'd want to leave or stay. What do you think?
yeah. I mean, I get the impression that he has a high opinion of himself,
Yeah.
hence some of
Yeah.
the the minor disciplinary problems he's
Yeah.
had. I mean, of course, he was dropped from the City game reportedly because he turned his back when getting instructions from the manager in the Pilsen game.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's just some of that, and there was talk before about sort of poor performances in training, and he buckled down under Ten Hag apparently after that, and seems like he's a player that's very coachable but has a high opinion of himself, and therefore would want to go to the top. And Napoli are top of Serie A, but not historically like one of Italy's big clubs. I mean, I know that kind of sounds unfair because obviously they won the title a couple of seasons ago, and they could well do again this season. But if you well before your time, but back to the 80s when Diego Maradona was there, they won the league for the first time in God knows how long, and it was a major thing. And Naples is historically not one of Italy's rich cities, and so all of that, feel like one of those clubs that really wants to challenge but don't traditionally. And so that would feel like a stepping stone if he's got ambitions of making it to the top. Where United should be but aren't, and it's going to be a few years before we're back there. So it'd be a slightly odd move, but if you saw it
Yeah.
as 3 years at Napoli, then on to an elite club, then you could kind of make sense of it, I guess.
Yeah. It's just whether I guess that'd be a risk for him to whether he'd want to take that because it is a risk if you go and you're not that good, you're not going to get a big move. I think I mean the Premier League is the most competitive league in the world. I think it was one of the most competitive leagues, and I
Yeah.
think for young players to have made it in that league sort of already. I think Garnacho, he's made a name for himself. People know who he is. He's scored some really good goals. He's done some great stuff. Of course, like I said, there's still work to be made, but work to be done. But I think, he's doing pretty well in the Premier League, in the hardest league. So for me, it's kind of like, well, why would you leave this big league at a big club like Manchester United? I wouldn't fully understand it. And I don't really think Man United fans would want him to go. Maybe some would. I don't know. I feel like we do need to be bringing in more top quality wingers, but I think, keep Garnacho for another year and see how he gets on. I would.
Well, I think that's the ideal scenario, is that he
Yeah.
develops. And
Yeah.
the question is, does he fit under Ruben Amorim? If we're really buying into this project and
Mm,
believe in this manager and where he's going, then like, can he develop into being a little bit more of an intelligent, like left-sided number 10? And I know that's Bruno's role, or like he could play in either of those roles, Garnacho, if he becomes a little bit better in the final third in terms of his decision making and great ball carrying skills, great work rate now. Now
yeah.
he's kind of sorted out some of those issues. He seems to have good sort of defensive head on him as well when he has to do that. Like think about Bruno's goal at the Emirates the other night. Garnacho wins the duel, carries the ball 50 yards, picks out the right pass, Bruno scores, right? That's what you want
Yeah.
from him
Yeah.
every time. And so that's when you look at the high ceiling and go, oh, hang on a minute. Do we really want to get rid of a player who could conceivably, if he improves everything, score 15 and assist 15 a season? And that's a very rare. Like you look at the numbers. I did this. I was looking at all the comparative players to, say, Marcus Rashford, right? How many can put up the kind of numbers that Rashford did 2 seasons ago? And it's almost none in Europe, right? There's so few.
Yeah.
And you have to pay a really big number to get that. So if you're saying that Garnacho's got that potential, not shown it, but potential, then
Yeah.
it should be a really big number, because you're going to have to pay a lot to replace him with equal quality. So that just
Yeah.
be my concern, I guess, that you're losing a player a bit too early before they've really peaked. And that's a
Yeah.
strange position for United to be in, selling younger players. Then again, if he doesn't fit at all and he's only ever going to be on the bench under Amorim, and Amorim doesn't believe he can develop into the kind of more intelligent forward that he wants, then I guess it's just
Yeah.
like you look at United's record last 10 years of buying players, it's not good. Like, there's no guarantee that you bring someone in and you get the requisite quality.
No, it's sort of like if we've got a good player, I think we need to hold on to him. Um, it's definitely no, it's definitely a difficult one with Garnacho because, like you said, how he did that great, carried the ball and then passed it to Bruno. It was great, and like I don't feel like we've seen enough of that from Garnacho in the last, well, all of this season. I don't know. I can't even remember. I don't think Garnacho's had a really, really good game this season. I think there's been obviously he's been benched a lot as well, so he's still got to kind of prove himself to Amorim. Like you said, is he going to fit into this Amorim system? Still figuring that out. I definitely think there's a player there. He has shown that he's capable, but he just has to, take the opportunities that he's given, like he did on Sunday. He did take the opportunity and did really well. So I I think there's definitely a place for Garnacho here, and it is just going to depend on Amarim's system. I think losing him to Napoli would be a blow. And like you said, you can bring in other players, but you've got to they've got to be of a high quality. You can't just be bringing in anyone. And we've brought up Garnacho. He's young and he's been brought up under Ten Hag. So I would keep him for a little bit. I
Mm.
would, and just see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the financial part of this is a
Yeah,
consideration as well. I mean,
yeah,
big fee, then you start to think about it, mediocre fee, and then what's the point? Like,
mhm,
it's just you could be trading away a player to bring in someone of lesser quality, even if it's in a different position, right? There's a risk associated with that. Big fee, then United start to think about what they can do with it. He would, because he's played in our academy and signed a new contract. After that, even if he was brought in, he was one of the players that was brought in that sort of post-Brexit like trolley dash to bring in all these young players. Came in from Atletico Madrid, really smart, like £250,000 or something like that. So, you United would put it on the book straight away, and then you can effectively get another player and split that same fee over 5 years. I mean, you do have to make the revenue to. There's no magic money tree here. Like, you're not inventing money; it's just accounting shenanigans where you could book the 70 million straight away, even if you're getting the cash from Napoli over 5 years, and then spend that right now, and then split that fee. So, 70 million euros translates to like 250 million worth of spending. It's just, or more than that, in fact, it's just that United would have to get the requisite revenues later on, and that involves Champions League football and all the money that goes with that and all of that. So it's just a big risk. It's the kind of thing that Chelsea have been doing, like buy young players, sell them on. City have done really well with their academy. Fantastic revenue source for them. Sometimes they make mistakes. I think they're probably regretting selling Cole Palmer at this point, for example. But that's the kind of accounting thinking. I just don't like that. It kind of encourages really odd behaviors from clubs. I mean, if you look at in the summer, all those clubs who sold all those young players, hardly any of them have made any starts. That was all a bit dodgy. But then to go down the route of going, well, we like this player, he's got a high ceiling, but it's a good offer and it works from our accounting perspective. It just feels weird.
Yeah, it's just like not focusing on the football at all, which is really annoying because it's like that's what it's all about. Like,
Yeah.
of course, the financial part comes into play, of course, but I think as a fan, you want to see the club bringing in good players for specific reasons to fit into the team or sales. When we're selling players, ones that make sense. I think we've definitely made some, sold some players who haven't made sense or brought in players that didn't really make sense. I mean, talking about like Xerxes, I think Xerxes a fine player, but kind of why did we bring him in? Did we need Xerxes? Same with Mason Mount. Did we need Mason Mount? It's just another thing where it's kind of a money thing, and it's like you're not actually looking. Whether that's the Glazers, possibly, but it's not. You're not looking at the football. You need to be looking at the football, but of course, it all comes into play. So
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, in a non-PSR world, Sir Jim, who is 60% owner of a 60 billion euro a year company, would just like pump as much money as he wanted into the club,
yeah.
and you wouldn't have to think about this at all, and it'd just be about chasing the kind of players that should be of the standard that United hope to regain and all of that. But unfortunately, we have spent years wasting money on poor quality players, and we're now paying the piper for that. I mean, there's a consequence to it, unfortunately, and it's going to take a little while to unwind. And the other thing to think about, and it's a really hard one for all United fans, I mean, especially for older ones like me who've been through many years of success. I mean, I'm old enough that I remember when it was crap. So, or was going to games when it was really crap. The thing we're going to have to accept is that established players at elite clubs, Champions League clubs, don't come to United right now because we are at the Champions League next year. We're not going to be in the Champions League this year, and next year, unless we win the Europa, which is still possible. And like, we're only making the Champions League one season in every two and haven't been to a quarter final for, well, when was the last time? I don't even remember. It was that bad. Under Moyes, I think, 2014.
Mhm.
And so our status as a club is like necessarily diminished, and therefore, in order to attract players of sort of elite status, you have to overpay them. Overpaying has a real consequence. We've seen this again and again and again with United. Some players who do well for a bit, maybe they're older, maybe they're Casemiro. That's a £25 million a year impact on our PSR calculations, Casemiro, and he's on the bench. And United would get rid of him tomorrow if there was any fee. So, like, we have to adjust our expectations. That's a really hard thing to say and accept. And part of that expectations might be selling young players. I hate it.
Yeah.
I really hate it, but it
It's not
might be
fair,
that.
but
No.
yeah. I mean, I think, I mean, me personally, I think we need to be looking at Premier League players, people who are proven in the Premier League. But like you said, like, they just don't want to come to United. No one wants to come to United unless there's a fee. Like, this is why we've been getting the Casemiros in. It's not, it is a bit of a mess right now. We know, we
Yeah.
know the transfer windows are always a bit of a mess. We're just not bringing in the right players. I'm interested to see if we make some good signings in the summer, because I think we do need, and obviously people's contracts are up in the summer, so some people will leave. But we just need to be bringing in some good players, and hopefully for a good price. And I would try and hold on to the young players while we can.
Yeah.
I think Garnacho, we should hold on to him.
Well, talking to young players, I think that's where they'll focus. I mean, so
Yeah,
if you look at the summer just gone,
yeah,
I mean, they're all pretty young. Mazraoui is older, but he was on a really good fee,
mhm,
and well, he'd said some things in Germany that are probably not acceptable in German football culture, and so Bayern were happy to get rid, and we got a great player for a really good price. That's unusual. That's an anomaly, I think, and so most of what United will be looking at is younger players of the Josh Zirkzee mold, I'd say. Now, whether he personally turns out to be a good player or not is to be decided. There's something
yeah,
there. I thought he played pretty
yeah,
well against Arsenal, actually.
yeah,
It's just, is he a good fit for the number 9 or a deeper role? It's really unclear so
mhm,
far. And so I think that's what United will do. They'll look for younger players who have a really high potential and maybe a slightly reduced fee. So he had that release clause. That's why he was a reasonable fee. So as opposed
made
to
sense.
say Rasmus Højlund, who's a really big fee, bigger
Yeah,
than the Kvaratskhelia fee,
mhm,
and like hasn't really justified it yet. Maybe he will, maybe not. Let's see. So the other thing to think about, I think, is like Amram's choices for those front 3 positions. And like we started the season, it felt like, or when Amram came in, it felt like we had a lot of options. So
yeah,
you got Hoyland and Xerxes and Ahmad and Garnacho and Rashford and Mount and Bruno and Anthony.
mhm,
And then you look at it now and you can have a really kind of negative opinion of it. Garnacho,
yeah.
maybe he goes. Rashford, totally out the picture. Mount injured all the time. Josh Zirkzee not really proving himself yet. Rasmus Højlund can't score goals. Anthony's absolutely crap. Sorry. Maybe he's a nice guy. Doesn't seem like he's a nice guy at all, actually.
No.
No. Not if you really read those reports from whenever, 18 months
Yeah,
ago. And so the only 2 who are actually performing of the, 8 choices there are Bruno and Ahmad.
yeah,
That's pretty concerning.
it is. No, it is. I think, like you said, like at the start of the season, there was definitely like, oh, we've got a lot of rotation. Then obviously, since Rashford's gone out, that's a player gone. And then obviously, he seems to be sticking with this Bruno and Ahmad recently up at the number 10 role, and then obviously Hoyland as your striker. But I think there definitely needs to be a lot of work done around the Hoyland area, because they're just not creating chances. Hoyland's not, I don't know whether part of me is like, oh, they're not giving Hoyland chances, but then when I'm seeing him get chances, he's not scoring. So I really feel like it's a bit of both. I think Ahmad is slightly better up front rather than on the right wing back, because I think he is a number 10, really. But I mean, Ahmad's versatile and can play pretty much wherever you want him, which is good. But no, there's a lot of work to be done in that front 3 area.
Yeah, I mean, there is. I mean, there's
Yeah,
potential there, but
yeah,
unfulfilled. Yeah. Rasmus Højlund, my feeling is he spends way too much time fighting with centre backs and less time running into channels and into
yeah,
space, which is what he
yeah,
should do.
yeah,
And he has this tendency to play off the left side, and which is fine, but makes him a little bit predictable. And I'd like to see him move into other spaces. If you look at Goicoechea at Sporting and his ability to fight with centre backs and play with his back to goal, but also make those bended runs or run into the channels and play it all across that front area. I think that's the kind of style that Højlund should try to get to. He's got the potential. He just
yeah,
doesn't do it. So as a result, he's getting on average, just over one shot a game.
Yeah.
Like, even the
Not good
best,
enough.
it's not good enough because
No.
even the most efficient strikers in the Premier League get converted, what, 30% of their chances?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's probably about right. The best, the most efficient strikers. And so if you're getting one shot a game, and Højlund's a pretty efficient striker,
Yeah.
like for all the missed chances, he converts quite a lot.
Yeah.
At least the data shows you that. Then he's just not going to score many goals at one shot a game. He needs to get up to 3.5 for the best strikers, 4 if you're elite, like Messi or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's nowhere near that. And part of it's on him, part of it's on the system, I guess, because we're playing these sort of two defensive fullbacks, which I don't think
Yeah.
Amorim wants long term.
No.
So yeah, it's a real challenge and a real so if you're gonna take the money for Garnacho, who are you going to invest it in? Are you going to invest it in a sort of attacking left wing back? Are you going to invest it in a striker? Are you going to invest it in a central midfielder because you don't believe in Eriksen and Casemiro anymore? Like,
I
big
want
question.
everyone.
All of them.
I want all of them, please.
Yeah. I wish Sir Jim would. Well, he could do this actually. I mean, if he's listening, it's unlikely. But if you're
Maybe.
listening, Sir Jim, I think you should buy Carrington for £250 million. Chelsea did it with a hotel, so the Premier League have said, yeah, that's all right. And I think we should have an extra sponsor, maybe the toilet sponsor, Ineos Toilets at Old Trafford, something like that. Yeah, whatever. Just make one up. That should be another few hundred million.
Yeah.
Like if you're listening to Jim, or just convince the Glazers to sell, because then you can write off the debt and do whatever you want.
Yeah. That one as well.
Good fix? No?
Maybe.
All right, I guess that's it for today's daily. Alejandro Garnacho, rumours of his departure to Napoli. I personally, I'd be sad. Not as sad as if they sold Kobbie Mainoo. I'd be on the barricades rioting then. Like that's
Me
just
too.
that's an absolute no.
That's too far.
It's too far. It's too far. You do not sell Kobbie.
No.
Garnacho, I'd be sad because I think the chances of us replacing with a higher level player are quite narrow. Like you really had to pick the right one and do the right deal. But there you go. Could be possible. That's the world we live in. Isabel, thank you very much. Talk About United is your YouTube channel. Go visit if you get the chance, whether you're listening or watching this one. Thank you, everyone.